My professional development is over the retrieval process and how that process helps students be more successful in the classroom. I want my PD specifically to be for high school teachers because I feel like no matter what subject you teach, you can utilize some of these strategies in your classroom. I also wanted to start with the Aristotle quote because even though we as teachers may not know about the retrieval process, it's something that we've definitely used before. And since pretty much the beginning of time, since Aristotle's time, uh, it's a tried and true learning process. I want to start by asking if anyone has ever felt this way or said these things or thought these things. Students not remembering anything, students don't know how to study, because I feel like those are things that I've heard teachers say, and teachers sometimes feel this way, and it's something that every teacher can relate to. Obviously, I'm going to start with defining what retrieval is, but also emphasizing that the over time part is the most important. I would probably also say something about the fact that people have tried to say that we need to move away from memorizing facts, and kind of debunk that myth, because how can you do higher order thinking if you don't know what you're thinking about? Like, you need some of that memorization in order to do more advanced processes. Then I would go over some facts about the retrieval process, because basically, if you can achieve all of these things, why would you not want to implement the retrieval process intentionally, if it means all of these things for your students? I started out with the term retrieval, and I want to give them two other terms: spacing and interleaving. Um, with spacing, though, I just want to emphasize that retrieval is important, but spacing out that retrieval is even more important. And also, I included this visual with the cramming and the spacing and the effectiveness, and I'll tell them about the study. But basically, we can all relate to cramming for a test, and then the moment we walk out, we forget what we crammed. And so, um, just talking about like giving really huge assessments with so much information encourages students to cram, and spacing out your assessments and making them smaller and not thinking of assessments as just a test, um, is something that we're going to talk about later. With interleaving, I wanted to include this visual because just explaining that spacing is practicing or retrieving the same information over time, then interleaving is then throwing in different terms and different concepts over time. Before I get into specific strategies that every teacher could use in their classroom, I kind of just wanted to give this question. I was thinking JFK. Ask not what did I learn today, ask what did I learn yesterday. And um, I think this is just one important way that we can think about retrieval, in not what we're doing in the moment, but asking students to just simply retrieve what we did yesterday and start there. I wanted to start with something that would be familiar to everyone because obviously everyone has used flashcards, and that way it's something that people can kind of say, oh, okay, so that's retrieval. And also then throw in doing old concepts with new concepts, not just get rid of your old flashcards, throw a few old ones in with new ones, and then that would be your interleaving. For big basket quizzes, I feel like that's something that is a very simple idea, but it can make a really big impact. Ever since I read it in Powerful Teaching, I thought it was a great idea. Next is creating lists, and I feel like this is also just something so simple, asking students to create lists, but it is forcing them to retrieve information and challenging students to create a list of 5 items, or maybe start with 2 items and then moving up. And again, you could use this with any subject. This is a strategy from small teaching K through 8, but I think high school teachers could definitely benefit from using this. One thing about high school students is, people say they lack that curiosity and like the spark for learning. So forcing them to ask questions and come up with questions is something that I think is important. This is something that I've started to use a lot in my classroom, polling and then giving teachers multiple ways or multiple platforms that you can use. It's just so easy to set up a poll, and I never really considered that that is retrieval, but it totally is. And students don't feel threatened by a poll and like giving their opinion or having a wrong answer. And it's a form of assessment. I mean, you're seeing what they know or what they don't know. I end the strategy section with closing questions because, again, this is just something that everyone can do. It doesn't take that much time. And mentioning the serial positioning effect, just we remember the beginning, we remember the end. Um, what's the most important thing you learned? And I threw in uh, I like what did you learn that you want to remember forever, because with high school students, they always want to know, how am I going to use this later on in my everyday life? So I need to come up with a better name for this game. I learned about this game, I would say 15 to 20 years ago. And every time I've used it in my classroom, it has been so successful. And especially when kids really think that they know something and then they find out they don't really know it because they can't explain it. So, this is also similar to the heads up game, but this was around way before the heads up game was invented. So basically, the number one person is holding a card with a term or a concept, and the number two person that's standing behind them can't see that card. And then the number three person is the most important person because they are going to be retrieving that information. And if they don't know that information, then the number two person is basically screwed because they are not going to be getting good clues, good definitions, good examples. And so that number three person is giving them the clues of the card that the number one person is holding. And basically, you can gamify this as much as you want. You can do timed um, rounds, or you can not do it timed. You can also have them skip ones, and I think it would be so perfect for interleaving, because then you can add like older concepts or terms into the game, which I haven't ever done that, but I'm definitely going to do that now. And the number 4 person is keeping score. And then after the time, you just rotate people so that everybody gets that practice. Also, just adding on to the game from the last slide, I think I would have them play that game to show them how it works, because it's kind of hard to explain, but once you do it, it's so much easier. Moving on to my sources, these were the 3 sources that I got the information from, some of the teaching strategies, and all 3 of these I really love. I want to end the professional development using one of the retrieval strategies, a closing question, and just have a conversation about what practices they thought were the most useful for them. And also, I did think about, after going through the strategies, like having them maybe in groups list those, and specifically how they could implement those strategies in their subject area.